Good morning, everyone. It's a Saturday morning, beginning of the weekend. Hope you've all had a very good week, and the weekend ahead is going to be even better. I want to do today a live about diabetes. Why am I doing a live about diabetes? Well, first of all, as a personal trainer specialized in diabetes and obesity, I see clients all the time who are diabetic, regardless of what type of diabetes they have, and they have so many misconceptions about the illness. It's astonishing for me to see how much misunderstanding is out there about diabetes, and as a result, how much lack of correct action is out there to help people live better with diabetes. So let's start from the beginning. So there are two types of diabetes, type 1 and type 2. Now, type 1 diabetes is a little bit more rare than type 2 at the moment. Hi guys, I can't see who you are. I can see hearts coming up saying, so just say hi so I can see who you are, and I'll be able to acknowledge you as well. And if you're on this call, welcome, and I hope you get some value from it. So type 1 diabetes. Now, type 1 diabetes, as I say, is more rare. That's my sister, Michela. Michi, lo sto facendo in inglese, dovrei capirlo poi, eh? Okay, so type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disorders. Yeah. So what does it mean? It means that your immune system is attacking your body and, causing damage. So in particular, with type 1 diabetics, what happens is the cells in the pancreas that create insulin have been destroyed. Yeah. So the type 1 diabetics cannot have their own insulin. They just don't make insulin, full stop. They haven't got it at all. So if you're type 1 diabetic, typically you will be diagnosed early on in life when you're a child, because, it's something you're born with. And you will have to be on medication for life. There is no way out of it, unfortunately, because if your body cannot produce insulin, without insulin, you die. It's as simple as that. Yeah, it's a very serious disease. Type 1 diabetic tend to be thinner. Yeah, they're not obese or overweight. Actually is the opposite. Very, very often they're very thin, because the body, if it's not controlled, the body literally, you lose weight very, very quickly. The body's like eating itself. Yeah. So it's very, very important they get looked after and they get on insulin immediately. Typically, type 1 diabetic will be on insulin injections rather than tablets. So insulin injection if you're type 1 diabetic, and you have two issues as type 1 diabetic where you need to be wary of. One is hypoglycemia. So if you're type 1 diabetic, you can have your blood glucose level can go so low that you can go into a coma and potentially die. Yeah. And of course they can be hyperglycemic as well, obviously. Because you can go, blood sugar can go too high as well. So they can go either ways. Yeah. And if you're type 1 diabetic, normally you are really under strict supervision from doctors and specialists. You have to inject yourself daily. You have to monitor your blood sugars multiple times a day. You have to adjust your insulin intake based on what you're eating, how many carbohydrates you have in your diet, in the meal, as well as exercise. Yeah. And if you exercise, you must exercise with someone who is specialist in diabetes, like me, like myself, because if you don't, you won't know how to adjust insulin properly, and you can get yourself in hot waters. Yeah. Type 2 diabetes is the most prominent at the moment because it is lifestyle based. So type 2 diabetes, what it is, your body produces insulin. Your body produces plenty of insulin. You got no problem producing insulin. The problem is that your body's become resistant to insulin. What does it mean? Let me give you an example. So every time you eat, especially if you got carbohydrates in the meal, but sometimes also with high proteins, but with carbohydrate in the meals, generally, your body has to produce insulin. Why? Because carbohydrates when you ingest them, they increase your blood glucose levels, the amount of sugar in your blood. The body can only have up to, hi Judy, the body can only have up to a teaspoon of sugar in the blood, which is about 5 grams of sugar in the blood at any given time. Otherwise it becomes toxic and it can be very, very dangerous. So what happens? You have a meal containing carbohydrates. Your body produces insulin. The job of insulin is to get this sugar from your blood into the cells that need it. So that could be your muscle cells, any cells in the body, but also your fat cells, So what happens if you have too much carbohydrate in your diet, or you eat too much, too many carbohydrate, in every single meal? What happens is every time you eat carbohydrate, the insulin has to come out, clear that sugar from your blood, because I said it's toxic and it's dangerous. Clear the sugar from the blood, knock on the cells and say, listen, I've got some insulin I need to put to you, give to you. The cells say, yeah, thank you very much, get the insulin in, get the sugars in, and it's done. Now when that happens too often, too regularly, too often, the cells reach a certain point where they're saturated, they can't take any more sugars, and they say, no thank you very much, I'm not, my dose is shot, I ain't taking no more sugar now, I've had enough. That's when you become insulin resistant. So what it basically means is your body's resistance to insulin. The cells have closed the door. They say, we can't take any more, enough is enough. So by the time you get to that point, you would have gone through hi Judy, thank you Judy. By the time you get to that point, you would have put on a lot of weight, normally in the middle part. So if you're what we call an apple shape, you store weight in the middle on your belly, that you're more at risk of type 2 diabetes. So your body has been insulin's been knocking on the door of your cells, and it's been storing all the sugars in your fat tissues. The fat tissues say, enough is enough, can't take no more, I've had enough now. So they shut the door. So what happens? The insulin can't take the sugar from your bloodstream into your cells, so it remains in the bloodstream. That's when your sugar levels go high. So when you test over a period of time, and every time your blood sugars are high, is because the body said, can't take no more of this crap, sorry, we are full here, no vacancies left here, and the insulin can't do the job it's gonna need to do. So your blood sugar go high, you go to the doctor and say, you're type 2 diabetic now, become diabetic. So what do? Instead of telling you, reduce your carbohydrate intake, because as I said, carbohydrates, when you eat carbohydrate in your meal, insulin has to come out, get the carbohydrate converted into glucose. Glucose in the blood, more than 5 grams is a problem. Insulin comes out, try to shove it in the cells. The cells say, I've had enough, we can't take no more of this crap. And they stop the insulin, they don't accept it anymore. So instead of the doctor telling you, listen, we need to go on a lower carb, eating plan. You're eating too many carbs, too many of the wrong carbs, too much sugars. Let's review this. So the insulin, reset your body. What they do? No, they give you a pill. What does the pill do? Is more insulin. So what they say, we're going to shove the sugar in the cells, whether they want it or not. We're going to give you extra insulin. It's like the equivalent of saying, the cells can't take anymore. We're going to use a bulldozer to open the cell doors to put the sugar in, whether they like it or not. It's ridiculous. It's like you taking a tablet, say you got headaches, you take the same tablet over a period of time. The tablet hasn't got any more effect because the body adapts to that, becomes resistant to that. So you need to change the tablet, or, find other ways of getting rid of a headache. It's the same thing with insulin. So the way we deal with that, or the way the doctors deal with that, is purely by giving you a tablet that is supposed to do what your insulin does. But we know you're insulin resistant. It's not the problem you're not producing insulin. The problem is that your cells have had enough of it. They can't take no more sugars. So let's bulldoze it in and get the freaking sugar into the cell, whether they like it or not, causing more problems there, more inflammation. And that's why over time with type 2 diabetic, if you don't adjust your diet, you have to take more and more and more and more insulin medications, because it's the cells eventually say, you bulldozed it once, twice, 3 times, and they say, that's it, we're going to reinforce our doors so they can't come in anymore. and then get more insulin medications. They're going to double bulldoze it. They get in for a little bit, and then they start saying, enough, we're going to reinforce the dose again. You know, so it's a game. But over time, that game only leads to your demise, because it will come to a point where the medication here in the UK, they normally give you metformin. It's the tablets. So you may start with 1 tablet, 2 tablets, and eventually you increase. When it gets to a certain point and those tablets won't work no more, because remember, we haven't adjusted the diet yet, then what happens? They put you on insulin injections. Yeah. And that's when a lot of people come to me, because the idea of injecting themselves scares the shit out of them. They don't like needles. But by then, why do you have to wait that long? It's too long. You got to take action immediately. So, type 2 diabetes is actually an insulin resistance. It's your food that is causing the problem. Yeah, there is a genetic element. Let me explain this. Type 2 diabetes also does have a genetic element. So if you have a parent or a very close family member who's diabetic or has had diabetes, then you are 25% more likely to develop it. If both parents have got diabetes, then you're 50% more likely to develop it. But let's understand this, 50% is not 100%. So stop blaming your genes for this crap, because it's not your genes, it's your lifestyle. As I said many times before, what we've got genetically, what we've dealt, you know, the cards we've dealt, we cannot change them, yeah? But those genes, those bad genes especially, do not get activated unless you match them with the bad lifestyle. And bad lifestyle includes diet, exercise, sleep, stress. Yeah, 4 things, not just diet, 4 things. Yeah, so whether you got both parents, you got type 2 diabetes, for genetically you're more predisposed to that. It doesn't mean you're gonna develop it. It just means you're more predisposed to that. Yeah, so what determines where you develop it? The other 50% is your lifestyle. So it's in our hands. We can control it. Yeah. There are certain ethnic groups which are more predisposed, even more predisposed genetically to develop it. We're talking a lot Asians, so people in India, we're talking about Caribbean, African, you know, they're more predisposed. But why are they more predisposed? They're more predisposed because they tend to store centrally. So when I say tend to store centrally, it means they tend to accumulate fat around your waist. Yeah, as opposed to being a pear shape when you accumulate around your hips and your thighs, and you tend to accumulate around the waist. So if you're the type of person who tends to, when you put on weight, you put it around the waist, you are a higher risk. Regardless of your ethnicity, you are a higher risk, because when you start storing fat around in the midriff, your visceral fat goes up, your risk of diabetes increase, and not to mention all the other things we're going to cover in a second. Yeah, so with type 2 diabetics, there's a massive misunderstanding with this. Yeah, I talk to a lot of clients who got type 2 diabetes, and they basically tell me, oh yes, it's I can't exercise because I've got type 2 diabetes, got to be careful, and they think they're gonna be hypoglycemic. No. Type 2 diabetes, remember what I said, is you are insulin resistant. So your body produces insulin, but your cells, body cells will say, had enough, guys, those are shut. Yeah, so your blood sugars are always high. They don't dip down to low glycemia. You've got no risk of going into diabetic coma like type 1 diabetic. They got no insulin whatsoever they can produce. So type 2 diabetic, your blood sugars are high all the time. All the time. How do you bring those blood sugars down? Diet and exercise. So if anything, you should be exercising regularly. And another thing that works really well with type 2 diabetics is intermittent fasting. Yeah, so that's the big difference between type 1 and type 2. That's another misconception I hear all the time. When people tell me, oh, I've got to eat regularly. No, if you're type 2, you don't. Your blood sugars are too high. Remember, the more insulin, the more carbohydrate you put in, the more times you eat, the more often you eat, the insulin has to come out all the time. You're making the problem 10 times worse. Now, type 1 diabetic, because they don't produce any insulin whatsoever. They haven't got the cells. You remember, the immune system has destroyed those cells in the pancreas. So they've got no choice, but they have to eat regularly, because remember, they got the risk of going hypoglycemic. And if you fast for long periods of times, your blood sugars drop. And if it drops too low and you're type 1 diabetic, you can go into diabetic coma. Yeah, and you're done. If there's nobody there to help you in a diabetic coma, you are finished. You're dead. Yeah, so they are the ones who need to eat regularly, and for every meal they have to measure the insulin. Remember, they're injecting, yeah, the insulin based on how many carbohydrates are in that meal. So you understand this. This is what the doctors tell you, that if you're type 1 diabetes, you have to adjust the insulin based on the carbohydrate you're going to have in that meal. They know it's a carbohydrate that causes the problem, but do they tell type 2 diabetics? No, they don't tell you. They give you this PDF form that says, oh, you can eat bread, pasta, everything, yeah? Provide this whole grain. That is bullshit. I'm so sorry. They know it's carbohydrate that causes insulin to come out to try to store it away, store the sugars away. Why are you giving type 1 diabetic one advice and type 2 you're not telling them the true story? How can people change the diet if you tell them they can eat as much bread, pizza, pasta, whatever, provide this whole grain? And not to mention, they don't tell you you're not supposed to have fruit. Yeah? Fruit, another big misconception. Oh, fructose is healthy for you. Well, it's healthy for you if you're not diabetic. You know, if you're diabetic, it's sugar. The body doesn't care whether your sugar is coming from rice or whether it's coming from fruit. It treats it the same way. Insulin comes out, try to shove it into the body cells. If the body cells have had enough, it's not going to be able to do it. The blood sugars go up because insulin can't get it away from the blood. And guess what? You have to take more medication. And it gets worse and worse and worse, yeah? So the doctors don't tell you this. So the two types of diabetes are completely different. The way you deal with them are completely different. Type 1 diabetes, regular meals. You have to watch what you're eating. You also have to be careful with protein on type 1 diabetes. I'm going to explain to you in a second why. Because they produce an insulin response as well, protein as well, not just carbohydrate. So everything is super controlled. You know, the meals determines how much insulin you're going to take, and also exercise determines, the exercise, it is determined on when you took your last meal and how much insulin you took. Yeah, so you can't just take a meal, get insulin, then start exercising immediately, because what the insulin is going to do is going to lower your glycemic index. Yeah, so your food has gone in, insulin does what it needs to do, put everything into the fat cells, all the cells in the body, so your blood sugars come down. If you add exercise at the wrong time or too intense, you can get the person into hypoglycemic coma. Yeah, so type 1 diabetes is purely autoimmune. You are born with that, or you might, if you're not born with that, it can be activated later on because it's autoimmune. Yeah, there's what they call now type 1.5 diabetes, which is basically type 1 diabetes, but you don't find out about that until you're later on in life. It activates because as autoimmune is activated by trigger food and lifestyle as well. So it activates later on in life, and all of a sudden, you know, you're insulin for the rest of your life. Yeah, but that's more rare. So type 1 diabetes, you normally are diagnosed quite early on in life. You're insulin dependent, and you have to be very, very careful monitoring everything. Type 2 diabetes is partly genetic, but as I say, either 25% or 50% genetic. The rest is purely lifestyle. So you can control it completely. You can actually reverse insulin resistance completely. You can reverse it. You can come off medication if you're type 2 diabetic. But it takes works. The first thing you need to do is get rid of crappy carbohydrates if you're type 2 diabetic. So bread, pasta, pizza, that's all processed food. It doesn't matter if it's whole grain. It's not part of your diet. If you're type 2 diabetic, it's not part of your diet. It's as simple as that. You can't have it. It's bad for you. Fruit, same thing. You know, if you want to have fruit, go for low glycemic fruit, but really no more than one portion a day. Just concentrate on good veggies. Yeah, vegetables. So we're talking about fruit. You want to talk about apples. You're talking about berries. They're very good for you. You want to stay away from banana. You want to stay away from grape. They're so high sugar, high glycemic. You don't want those ones if you're type 2 diabetic. Yeah. If you're type 2 diabetic, what you want to do, you want to reduce the amount of carbohydrate in your diet. So the only carbohydrate in your diet should be coming from whole food, natural foods. Yeah. So we're talking about vegetables. We're talking about starches, you know. So starches, we're talking about potatoes. So let's try to go more for sweet potato as opposed to normal potato, because the normal white potatoes are high glycemic unless you match them with protein, and then the glycemic index is reduced. So the release of the sugar in your blood is reduced. Yeah. So it becomes low glycemic. But really, if you're type 2 diabetic, guys, you know, do not rely on a tablet so you can have a piece of chocolate. Yeah. In ideal world, you want to clean up your diet. Now, we have to be realistic. Yeah. So we know that you cannot be perfect, 100% perfect. Nobody's expecting that, but you have to have some plan of action. So let's say, you know, you've got a wedding coming up, and in that wedding, there's going to be, of course, wedding cake, and you may not have control of the diet there because, of course, you know, you serve what they serve you. So there may be carbohydrate stuff like that. Fine. Then, you know, it's about 80-20. So being, you know, controlled and healthy 80% of the time, and then allowing for the 20% of the time that you may not have control over it, or you want to treat yourself, you know, so it's, you know, it could be a birthday. So it's fine. So just make sure, you know, if that happens on a Saturday, you got a wedding or whatever, just make sure Monday to Friday you are, you know, good. You're eating based on your type 2 diabetes, so you give your body the best chance possible, and then on Saturday, that's it, you have your piece of cake or whatever happens during the wedding. Yeah, so that's fine. You know, nobody's playing, you have to be 100%, you know, perfect, because nobody's 100% perfect, but you have to take stock of these issues. Yeah. The other thing that is absolutely infuriating me recently, I was talking to clients that go to one of these slimming clubs, yeah, and I've actually seen when I went to the doctors, I saw in the reception area that now doctors send people, overweight people, to clubs like Slimming World. Yeah, because why? Because in the past, they were able, if you type 1 diabetic, type 2 diabetic, they were able to send you to a diabetic nurse, yeah, or dietitian to give you advice. Now, the funding for that is no longer available. I believe they still do it for type 1 diabetic, because as I say, type 1 diabetic is really serious, and you have to monitor really intensely, yeah, to make sure that it can go hypoglycemic and go into coma. So you need to understand that. That still happens for type 1 diabetic, but type 2 diabetics, which is the majority of people, they give them a piece of paper, have this, that, and they can have all this, no problem, provide this whole grain. Yeah. So what they do now, they send people to clubs like Slimming World, yeah. And I was appalled, absolutely appalled, when I heard from some of my clients that in clubs like that, they tell you, you can have fruit is unlimited. You can have as much fruit. Hi, Marco. You can have as much fruit as you like. Hello? You know, and another thing they said, another thing that shocked me actually is you can have as much beef as you like, red meat as you like. There's no limit on that, but it has to be lean, so 5%. Now, okay, I mean, I don't understand really. I mean, the state of NHS must be a lot worse than I thought when a doctor is referring that type 2 diabetic to clubs like that, when they should know, probably doctors don't know actually because they're not very trained on nutrition, but fructose from fruit and lean meat, yeah, so 5% meat contains huge amounts of protein. Yeah, so proteins in huge amounts of protein, especially from lean meat, will cause an insulin reaction in your body. Yeah, just as much as white rice would. So you imagine you go to a club like that, you're diabetic, the only intention is to make you lose weight. So they put you on points diet, whatever they do, you can do this, you can do that, whatever, and they reduce your calorie intake, so you might lose weight, but in the process you're making your diabetes worse because you're eating all the wrong food. And another thing was something like avocado. Now, avocado is high fat, but it's high good fat. Is monounsaturated fat. Yeah, they're very good for you, and it's natural. it grows like that. It's not man-made, yeah? And it's absolutely perfect. It's absolutely healthy. Absolutely, you don't gorge on that because it's very high calorie because it's got high fat, but it's got a lot of good fiber. It's a powerhouse of nutrients. It's one of the best things you can have if you're diabetic as well. And guess what? In these clubs, an avocado is 20 cents. That means if you want to have an avocado, you got to stay without God knows how much food for 3 days. How ridiculous. Those guidelines are built for people who want to lose weight, assuming they got no health condition whatsoever. You are diabetic, you go in a club like that, they're totally going to screw your health. Totally. And the thing that puzzles me is why would the NHS or a doctor send somebody who's got type 2 diabetes to a club like that? The only answer I can give is because the doctors are uneducated when it comes to food, yeah, when it comes to nutrition, because they're not, part of their training, years and years of medical school, does not involve nutrition. Yeah, I think they got about 3 hours of nutrition in 4 years of medical school. What is it going to do? 3 hours 4 years ago, it's going to be the nutrition advice there is going to be completely different from what you do now, because we find that a lot more. You have to be on top all the time, yeah. So it's not their fault. They don't understand. They follow guidelines. Unfortunately, these guidelines are the ones that have caused the whole nation to be obese and diabetic. Yeah. So, and in addition to that, they shove the problem to somebody else, like Slimming World, where that company is built purely to help people lose weight quickly, not to teach you how to eat. They give you a sheet, you follow this routine, regardless of what disease you might have. You got high cholesterol, you got autoimmune, you got diabetes. It makes no difference whatsoever. Everybody gets the same. The only difference is how many calories they allow you to eat. Yeah, to make sure you lose weight. Yeah, so that is absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, so let me explain to you when I was saying that meat, lean meat can have the same insulin response as white rice. Yeah, so there's 2 different things you need to be aware of if you're diabetic, and anyone else as well. Anyway, there's the glycemic index of food versus the insulin index of food. Yeah, so glycemic index, everybody knows about that, has heard about that. Basically what it is, glycemic index is all based on sugar. Yeah, so how quickly the food releases sugar in your body once you've ingested it. The quicker releases it, the higher the spike, quick spike of energy and glucose in your blood, followed by the slump. So that's when you have chocolate, for example, you get energetic for a while, and then after that you are tired, you are starving, you're craving more chocolate because your blood sugar is going boom 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 boom, yeah, because it's high glycemic index. So low glycemic basically means something like, for example, I don't know, let's put something that includes fat, so avocado, low glycemic. Yeah, so what happens is releases of avocado is a fruit, so it's got carbohydrate in that, which then can convert into glucose in your body, yeah, and glycogen eventually stored as glycogen. But don't worry about that. So glucose, talk about glucose. So you eat an avocado, it's gonna take quite a long period of time for your blood sugars to raise a bit, but it's like a gentle raising and then goes back down. It's not like and down, yeah, which will cause by high glycemic food. So the idea of low glycemic food is that they keep your blood sugars fairly level throughout the day. So your energy levels remain the same. You don't get hungry quickly, because if you have something that's very high in sugar, you will get hungry very quickly, because of course the moment your blood sugars drop, you get hungry. Yeah, and of course you get cravings. So low glycemic food and stuff like that is great. So that's why on the advice guidelines from the government, they say you can have pasta provided is whole grain and stuff like that. Now, whole grain is, as opposed to white pasta and white rice are refined. Yeah, so they've taken the some nutrients out of that, refining it, so it spikes your blood sugars quicker, and therefore you get hungry. How many of you have had a Chinese meal and an hour later you're starving again? Yeah. So white noodle, white pasta, obviously Chinese can have GSM, and they also problems in there anyway, so other things that make spike your blood sugars, but you know, that's part of that. So the low glycemic is good for diabetics. So when we're talking about having low glycemic fruit, so we're talking apples, pears, some berries, yeah. So as opposed to bananas, you know, grapes and stuff like that, which are high glycemic. So the sweeter, the juicier, more normally the more high glycemic, so the quick release on your blood sugars, giving you these spikes and makes you hungry, and then causes total havoc with the type 2 diabetes, yeah. But there's another thing which is actually only started, it's been more studied only more recently, but doctors are not aware of it. I mean, doctors are not aware of a lot of things, you know, there's no chance they're going to be aware of this anyway. But very often, unfortunately, even more established professionals in NHS are not aware of it because they don't keep up to date. And this is actually the insulin index of food. Now, I saw some research, I looked through some studies, and I was shocked because I know, for example, you know, I know I don't touch carbohydrates, yeah. I was keto, having just vegetables and then meat and fish and stuff like that. But, you know, eating meat and fish, you think that's protein, that's good, some fat and a bit of protein, you know, that's no problem. So it shouldn't spike your insulin. How wrong is that? Now, these studies have actually proven that things like lean meat, especially things like lean beef, yeah, lean steak, lean beef, ground beef and stuff like that, spikes your insulin just as much as an insulin response, just as bad as white rice. I was shocked. I was like, how is that even possible? Why? Well, of course, because if you think about it, lean meat has got very little fat in it. Yeah, so protein, just like carbohydrate, can spike your insulin. Yeah, because you eat protein, your body has to produce insulin to, you know, bring this the blood sugars go up, and you bring these blood sugars into the cells. Yeah, so protein is very, very important. It's a lot better to eat protein than to eat, you know, carbohydrate. However, too much protein, or let me rephrase this, lean protein, so where the actual fat has been removed, you know, so is your low fat. Yeah, that's where the problem is. It causes an insulin response equivalent to high glycemic carbohydrates. So what does it mean? Is that if you have a lot of lean protein, you could actually develop insulin resistance without even having huge amount of sugars in your diet. Now that's massive. That is massive. Yeah, and that stuff is coming out only recently. I've seen studies, and I was shocked because obviously I eat a lot of meat and fish, and so freaking out, you know. So I'm being so careful, and all of a sudden this tells me I potentially could be giving myself insulin resistance. Yeah, but there's a difference. So the studies have looked at different things. They look at lean meat versus meat as it comes, yeah, with the normal fat is meant to have. Now that's where the difference is. Now fat is the one thing that does not cause an insulin response at all. Yeah, we're talking about healthy fat, guys. Fat as it comes in nature. So fat in an avocado, fat as it comes, even with meat and fish. Yeah, so it hasn't been reduced. So when you go to the supermarket, let's say you've got minced beef, yeah, you will see you got 5%, 12%, 15%, 20% fat. So most people, based on what they hear, your fat loss, low fat, blah, 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 they go for 5% because, oh, less fat is better for me. Wrong. That low fat meat can actually cause as much damage as a plate of rice, white rice, internally, insulin response. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. You have to eat the food as it comes in nature. So the cows, when they butcher them, when you make minced meat from that, they will have more than 5% fat. It's the processing side of it that you take the leaner part of a cow to make the 5% fat, yeah, and get rid of all the extra fat. No, you have to eat the food as it comes, yeah. You got chicken. Now, chicken breast is very, very lean versus the chicken thigh, they got more fat, yeah. So if you eat chicken breast, for God's sake, please add some fat to it, healthy fat. Yeah, so you can either eat it with the chicken skin on that, yeah, because it contains fat and it's the fat as it came in nature. Or if you don't want to have a chicken skin, cook it with something like either butter or coconut oil. Yeah, so that you got some natural fats in there that you can, and make sure you eat the butter and the coconut oil. Don't just chuck it, just take it out and chuck it away. You have to have it. Yeah, and this what the study has proven is that when you have lean protein, the insulin response of your body is similar to having high glycemic carbohydrates. But when you add fat to the lean protein, so it's more as it was meant to be in nature, then the insulin response drops right down and it becomes fine. Then you don't have a problem. And that's why lifestyles like ketogenic lifestyle work so well for type 2 diabetics, because what they are, they're based on fats, yeah, high percentage of fats, natural fats, yeah, fat in meat, fat in fish. So we're talking about oily fish like salmon and mackerel. Then you have avocados, those kind of fat. You have healthy fat from meat, fish, and coconut oil, olive oil, those kind of things. You have moderate protein, yeah, very low carbohydrate, and all your carbohydrate come from mainly from vegetables, certain vegetables, yeah, and sometimes once you adapt it to that, you can add some berries there, but generally speaking, just the vegetable. So you totally cut out the grains, the rice, the pasta, all the kind, because they're not supposed to be part of the diet for type 2 diabetic, yeah. So that's why it works well, because the fats, everything you eat with the fat is supposed to have. That's why you don't get insulin problem when you're ketogenic diet, because it's not lean protein. Yeah. So imagine my disgust when I heard these groups, they're advising type 2 diabetes not only to have as much fruit as you like, no difference between what you're having banana or having low glycemic. In addition to that, they tell you have as much lean beef as you want. I mean, that's a double whammy. You might as well just stop taking medication and let your body goes into total overdrive in blood sugars, so you can start fuck up your kidneys, and your eyesight goes, you go blind, and eventually you die. You might as well do that. It's ridiculous, yeah? So if you're type 2 diabetic or even type 1 diabetic, please, 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 do not get your diet advice from slimming groups. They are not built for that. They're built for quick, fast, weight loss for people who are healthy, not for people who got any type of autoimmune disorders or any type of disease. Yeah, if you are diabetic, you must, please, 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 you must get proper advice. This is your health. Yeah, type 2 diabetes, like type 1 diabetes, kills. It kills, and before it kills you, it will destroy your life, will make your life miserable. You can go blind, you can have major problems with kidneys, you can lose limbs. Yeah, if you are the type of person who, even if you got no history of type 1 or type 2 diabetes in your family, but you're a type of person who tends to store your weight centrally. Now, this is 99.9% of men and a smaller percentage of women. Women tend to either be a pear-shaped, they store in the hips and legs, or store in the belly. If you're one of those people who tends to store fat, when you put weight, you tend to store fat centrally, you must watch your diet, please, because if you don't, you will develop diabetes, even if there's nobody in your family that does. And let me explain something to you about storing centrally. When you store your weight centrally, so in your waist, yeah, your visceral fat, which is the fat around your internal organs, increases. Yeah. Now, every cell in our body has got fat around it. It's a protection mechanism. Yeah. So that's fine. When the fat, mainly because diet and poor lifestyle, so we're not moving enough. Yeah. When the fat, centrally visceral fat, increases too much, it will go like around your liver. Fat around your liver becomes fatty liver disease. Yeah. Which eventually can turn into cirrhosis of the liver. That's liver cancer. Curtains, yeah. Fat around your heart and especially in your arteries, yeah, causes, by the way, the fat in your arteries does not come from food fats. It doesn't come from food. It comes from carbohydrate, in particularly high triglycerides are linked actually a lot to fructose. So if you got high cholesterol, which causes the problem with your arteries being blocked, yeah, this high cholesterol is actually being linked to fructose. So imagine you go to one of these groups that tell you can have as much fruit as you like, you know, that's the best way to give yourself a heart attack. So it's got cholesterol. It's got nothing to do with the fats you eat. It's all got to do with carbohydrate, especially fructose. Yeah, so just understand this. So when you get fat in your arteries, what happens? There's little blocks of fat attached to the arteries, attached to the wall of the arteries. Eventually, one of these comes off, and it can either go to your heart and give you a heart attack, or it can go to your brain and give you a stroke. Either ways is not pleasant. Yeah, and most importantly, either ways, it can have a massive impact on your lifestyle, if not kill you. Yeah, so that's what happens when you start storing too much fat. Yeah, and of course, too much fat centrally will also increase your risk of diabetes. You will normally have warning signs for that. Apart from putting lots of fat on, lots of weight on, you will normally start having issues with high blood pressure. Yeah, so you will go to your doctor, and all of a sudden you got a little bit of an issue with high blood pressure, never had it before. That's warning sign. Do not ignore it. Do not go and take the freaking pill from the doctor. You know, you have to understand the doctor can only cure symptoms. It will not cure the cause. And don't stop and say, okay, let's have a look at your diet. Let's have a look what could be causing this high blood pressure. They say, no, high blood pressure, there's a book, pill. There's your pill. Off you go. Yeah, so it's up to you to, you know, to stop and think, why have I got high blood pressure? That's a symptom. Something is not right. Yeah, you're not moving enough, you're eating the wrong things. Stress is a massive cause of high blood pressure. So that needs to be monitored, because if your life is too stressed, your stress levels are too high, then it will not just affect your blood pressure, it will also affect your cortisol level. Yeah, your stress hormones. The cortisol level has a major impact on everything. It will affect your adrenals, will affect your thyroid, will affect your fat storing. So you store more fat. Your body will not release fat when it's high fight or flight mode, which is your cortisol hormone. Yeah, so the body's not built for that. So, and of course, sleep. Poor sleep. What happens when you have poor sleep? Number one, you're hungrier. Yeah, because it's your body needs food to keep you awake. Yeah, you have cravings. You often crave the things that are wrong for you, namely carbohydrates, because carbohydrates get assimilated by the body very quickly, gives you sugar spike. That's your energy level going up, followed by the slump, and you need more and more and more. So if you haven't slept well, your stress levels go up. You eat the wrong things, and you eat more. Yeah, so it's stress, sleep. Exercise, this daily activity. You must move daily, at least 30 minutes of activity a day. I don't care whether you go swimming, whether you go power walking. You don't have to go to the gym every day, but then you also need to do some weightlifting exercise, some lifting some weight, because your muscle needs to get strong as well, needs to stay strong. Otherwise your bone mass, your skeletal mass is going to support you, start having problem with joints and everything. Yeah. So all of those are important factors. But the main thing you need to understand, type 1 diabetic is they're normally very controlled with by either they will have a doctor following them or specialists following them. They are at risk of hypoglycemia and diabetic coma. They need to eat regular meals, and the insulin needs to be tailored to the meals, how many carbohydrates they have in the meal, and exercise based on that. Yeah, so you have to make sure you use professionals when it comes to exercise for type 1 diabetic, because it could be dangerous if you don't. Yeah, type 2 diabetes, totally different, lifestyle based, insy bits of genetic background, but really it's all lifestyle based. You determine whether you're going to activate those genes or not. Easier to control, because yes, you go on insulin. Yeah, tablets, normally you can come off them. You control your lifestyle and your diet, you can come off, you can reverse it, completely reverse, insulin resistance. You cannot cure, let me explain this. You cannot cure type 2 diabetes. Once you go diagnosed type 2 diabetic, you cannot cure it, but you can reverse it. What it means is that you manage it. So you stop the effect of type 2 diabetes, which could be loss of sight, kidney disease, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, but you have to, apply those lifestyle changes all the time. Yeah, you can't do it for 3 months and then you go back to having all the stuff you want. It's got to be a lifestyle change. Yeah. So you can control it. And by the way, the moment you're diagnosed with diabetes, your life expectancy has already dropped 25%. Yeah, so it's not a piece of cake. I've got clients, they are pre-diabetic and they don't see that as a danger. Why I'm not diabetic? You're pre-diabetic. You got one foot already through the door and the other one is halfway through. Once you become diabetic, there's no way back. You're diabetic for life. Your life expectancy drops. But once you're diabetic, the body cannot cope with severe injuries, operations. The body takes a long time to recover. That's why when you're diabetic, if you need to have an operation, they're going to think twice before doing the operation, because the risk to your life are twice as much when you type 2 diabetic, because your body can't recover. It's so highly inflamed, it can't recover quickly. Remember, high blood sugars are extremely toxic to the body. So toxic that insulin has to take the extra sugar and put it in the cells. Because if it doesn't, then all the organs start failing. Your eyesight, kidneys, you get central neuropathy. So your nerves, get damaged. That's why a lot of diabetics can't feel their feet. They get numb on their feet. They get an injury on their foot. They don't realize they got an injury because it's completely numb. The injury becomes gangrene. Next thing you know, a limb is amputated. So it's very serious, but you can't control it. Type 2 diabetics, your blood sugars are always too high. So intermittent fasting, whether you do 12-hour fast, 12-hour eat, which is very easy to do. You wake up 7 in the morning. From 7 in the morning to 7 in the evening, you can have your meals. After 7 in the evening, you don't eat anymore. That's very easy to do. You're basically fasting when you sleep. It's not that hard, It doesn't matter what rhythm you do, but you need to give your body a break from food, because it allows you to reset a little bit, So intermittent fasting works. Reduce your amount of carbohydrate, especially the processed carbohydrate, bread, pasta, that kind of stuff. Pies, quiche, all the crap, And please, if you're diabetic, please, if you're having meat, make sure you have a meat with the fat you're supposed to have in it. Don't have lean meat, or add fat like coconut oil or butter, so that you reduce the insulin index of that food, so you don't find yourself thinking you're eating healthy, but they're having the same response of having a plate of white rice, So type 2 diabetes, as I said, is you must, if you intermittent fasting, it will help you. So fasting is not a problem at all. Exercising is a must for type 2 diabetes, because it's one of the 4 lifestyle issues that cause you to become type 2 diabetic. Lack of exercise, lack of activity, So 2 totally different ways of dealing with this, type 1 and type 2, 2 totally different medication, and 2 totally different effects on your body and risk factors, So, if you are type 1 or type 2 diabetic, or if you know anyone who's type 1, type 2 diabetic, please share this video with them. I'm trying to condense as much as I can. I don't want to be here for 2 hours, because nobody's got time to listen to that for me for 2 hours. But I'm trying to give you as much information as I can, which is not readily available out there, especially for your doctors, just to, to try to help you to start making those little changes in your lifestyle that can make a difference for you straight away. And if you need more guidance, talking about specifically diet guidance and exercise guidance, you type 1, type 2 diabetics, please feel free to contact me separately. As I said, I'm a diabetes specialist. I'm also a nutritional therapist. So I deal from both sides of it, and I can help you control it and get yourself back to health in the proper way without risking to your health. So I hope you found it helpful, guys. I can see a few people on. I can see Chessie, I can see Darren, Simeon, sorry if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. There's a few people on. So thank you for listening to me. And if you got any help, from this video, please comment, put a like for me. And I will keep on doing videos about health and stuff like that, the things I specialize in, just to try to change the information that's out there. I myself look into information. I research a lot of stuff because I just enjoy. That's what I'm, passionate about. But I do appreciate that the average person might not have the time or the interest in finding out more about this. So I'm just trying to give you guys layman's terms, what is what, and I'm explaining what differences are and how you can make a difference to the, based on what you have. And hopefully the message is going to go across and more people understand that a lot of the guidelines out there are wrong. And if you keep on following those guidelines, you're only going to get worse. Remember, it's not the doctor's fault. They are trained to dispense the medication. It's really the lack of funding. NHS has not got the funding to look after people the way you should be looked after. It's as simple as that. So it is our own responsibility. It's our health, our own responsibility to take action, you know, to question. If you're told you need a medication, question why. Is there a better way around it? And if you're not sure, and if a doctor keeps telling you have to take medication, before you start taking the medication, just look around, you know, ask experts, you know, have a look. There's so much information out there. Make sure that wherever you go is a safe place, like PubMed, where they got peer reviews, studies, so we know they are safe. They're not Joe Blog making up things on the spot. Yeah. So, but as I say, if you're ever unsure about anything to do with diabetes, autoimmune, thyroid, anything like that, please listen. All you gotta do is just send me a message. I'll be more than happy to point you in the right direction, you know, for no cost to you, just literally just helping you out. You know, I'm just trying to get people, the average person, to understand things are not easy to understand, and making sure you make sense of the information that's out there, so you can have practical applications to the information. Yeah. Great, so it's time now to go. I don't even know how long I've been on the thing for. Hopefully it's not been too long, otherwise you get bored out of your brain. Have a great weekend, everybody. As I say, share the video with anyone you think you may benefit from that, type 1 or type 2 diabetic. Any questions, just send me some messages. I'll answer them. You can even put in the comments. If you've got any question, I'm more than happy to answer on the comments. And have a great weekend. Bye, everyone.